Welcome to another town hall. Welcome to another Town Hall Thursdays. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, Libertarian for Governor of New Hampshire. And I want to talk to you. Well, first, let me say that I don't have a guest tonight, so it will just be me, meaning that we'll go about 30 minutes instead of 60, which normally when I have a guest, I like going closer to 60 minutes than 30. But again, it's solo town hall tonight with just me. Want to talk a little bit about the state Supreme Court hearing yesterday that happened. I almost said at the New Hampshire Supreme Court, but I realized I just said the Supreme Court hearing was the Supreme Court hearing on the Laurie list. So I want to talk about that just a little bit. I know I've talked about the Laurie list a lot, and I believe that it should be a completely open public record, but there is at some point, unfortunately, there's no deadline for when the Supreme Court has to turn around and give decisions. So at some point between now and eternity, there will be the state Supreme Court decision on whether or not the Laurie list should be a public record. So again, there was the hearing yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk about debates and elections. And I realize those are different things, but they're sort of tied in together because, you know, like I don't want to say how else do you have a well-informed electorate, but debates do serve a purpose of helping inform the electorate of where candidates stand on various issues. And there's, according to WMUR, the debate over debates has begun. So let's first start off talking about the Laurie list state Supreme Court hearing. Again, that hearing was yesterday, September 16th. And the reason I'm giving the date is because if you're watching this at a later time on YouTube or on Facebook, you know what day I'm talking about. And yes, I know the date of the show is in the title, but still, I'd rather be a little clearer than not. The union leader has the article here, and they say the two sides, and those two sides were the groups of media and civil liberties organizations versus the state of New Hampshire. Those are the two sides. So the union leader, along with a couple other news organizations and the ACLU, filed the lawsuit. But of course, you know, there are other interested parties besides just those that are the named plaintiffs in the case. But they filed the suit against the state saying that the Laurie list should be a public record. The state is arguing, no, it's not a public record because, well, it has employee personnel stuff in it. And well, there's the stuff in 91A that says that personnel files are exempt from public records requests. So therefore, the Laurie list isn't a public record. Jumping down here a little bit, again, I'll post the link for this in the notes that I wind up posting later on Facebook and YouTube. That way you can read the entire article if you want to. But I just want to hit a couple of the quotes that the union leader has published here. Gregory Sullivan, who's a lawyer representing the union leader, said that a variety of actions played into the Laurie list case, that being the ACLU and other organizations trying to get access to the list. Plus, earlier this summer, the court threw out a 27-year-old precedent and allowed the disclosure of police personnel files in certain circumstances. So that's the actions that he's talking about. Says here, shining the light of public scrutiny on law enforcement only improves the quality of law enforcement over time. The cell phone at a police beating is the equivalent of the exculpatory evidence schedule. And again, the exculpatory evidence schedule is the official name of the Laurie list. There's documentation or report in here that the Attorney General has released redacted versions of the list, which in most cases identify where officers work, but it doesn't give any actual information. So, and by that I mean, it doesn't tell you the date of the incident. It doesn't tell you the date of the or the name of the officer. Doesn't tell you whether they're still employed. Doesn't even tell you exactly what happened. So, for example, I am looking at a redacted version of the Laurie list that the union leader has published. And the first entry from December 20th, 2017, someone in the Nashua Police Department on an unknown date had a legal procedure. That's the category of what happened. The next entry, Hampstead Police Department, 2 findings. Again, name and date of incident redacted. This from February 13th, 2006. Category is blank. Someone from the Ware PD in January of this year had a credibility issue of falsifying physical evidence. So again, there's no real information that lets you know exactly what happened. Just, oh, there was credibility. What exactly does that mean? And because the name of the officer is redacted, everybody that has a pending charge from this officer should be able to get their entire case thrown out based on this credibility problem. But name redacted, date of incident redacted, we don't know what happened. And again, nobody on this list should be employed in the law enforcement field anywhere in the country, but specifically in New Hampshire. Again, the Attorney General is saying, well, I released a redacted version of the list, so that's good enough. The ACLU, however, says that, and this also is my belief here, that the Laurie list is akin to a court record. And by that, I mean, if because I have no pending charges, but if I had any pending charge in the New Hampshire court system, whether it be a traffic ticket, a parking ticket, or a felony distribution of cannabis, that record, unless I jump through hoops and hurdles to wind up getting it sealed, that record is public record. Hell, even my prior convictions for parking tickets is public record. But for some reason, because this is a personnel issue, it's private. But again, the ACLU says that it's akin to court documents. But one of the judges here, the union leader, says that the judge sort of didn't agree with that, and I don't see exactly in the article very easily what the rebuke was, but basically it was, well, no, it's different. Don't you agree that it's different? One of the Supreme Court justices, again, state Supreme Court, has disqualified himself for an undisclosed reason. So they're down one justice. So instead of a 5-member Supreme Court making this decision, I believe it will be 4, unless there's some kind of procedure to temporarily replace that person. The article gets kind of hazy there, but again, I think it's only a 4-member panel that will be making this decision. And again, there's no timeline on when this decision has to come out. Whereas with, say, the US Supreme Court, we know that the Supreme Court session ends on a certain day in June. I think it's June 30th. So all of the decisions have to be out by that date, not so in state Supreme Court. And again, I will post the link to this article in the show description on Facebook and on YouTube. Again, the YouTube link is darrylwperry.com/YouTube. Now, let's talk about the debate on debates. And I realize how strange that sounds to where, oh yes, we're debating whether we should have debates and how many. Dan Feltus, who is my Democratic challenger, has, I'm assuming today, because the article here from WMUR says that they learned that on Thursday, Dan Feltus was planning to challenge Governor Chris Sununu to 7 debates. And again, this came out early this morning saying that at some point on Thursday, and I'm assuming it's happened, I don't know. So my Democratic opponent has issued a challenge for 7 debates. I will say right now, I accept. I realize that the challenge was directed specifically at Governor Sununu, not to me, but Senator Feltus, I accept. The article here says, in addition to the WMUR Granite State debate, which has not yet been scheduled, Feltus wants Sununu to participate in debates sponsored by the Greater Nashua NAACP on October 1st, which I will be at, and New Hampshire Public Radio on October 26th, which I have not yet received my invitation, but I plan to be there. The senator also proposed 4 other debates sponsored by media outlets, chambers of commerce, or other agreed upon nonpartisan institutions. Feltus said that while the COVID-19 pandemic limited in-person campaigning during the spring and summer, the people of New Hampshire deserve a robust conversation about the future of our state. And again, this is where I definitely agree that debates are good and healthy, and they need to happen, and they need to include everybody that's on the ballot. I realize that certain people, looking at you, union leader editors and WMUR news staff and New Hampshire Institute of Politics, looking at you, where you want to set criteria of, no, we need to have certain polling thresholds. And then we'll either not include the candidates other than Republican and Democrat in the polls, or we'll just set it at a high enough number to where we know that nobody other than a Republican or a Democrat can reach that number. Oh, and if they do wind up reaching the number, we'll just change our mind. And you know what? We'll also come up with a fundraising threshold. You have to have raised $1 trillion for your campaign. Oh, that excludes everybody. All right, $1 million. Oh, that excludes one of the major party candidates. All right, let's come up with another number. And let's just look through the filings and see what the Libertarians have raised and set it at double that. And oh yeah, the deadline was yesterday. That's happened in the past. Where they just wind up doing that. Like, at least, and I'm not defending the Commission on Presidential Debates here, but at least we know years in advance what the CPD polling requirements are. We know what their criteria for inclusion in their debates are. Again, I'm not defending them. They're a corrupt organization. There are all kinds of reasons to oppose what the CPD does, where it's headed up by former chairs of the RNC and the DNC under the guise of a 501c3 nonprofit educational entity. But, oh no, they're hosting debates. Well, no, like a very good argument could be made that the Commission on Presidential Debates and the networks that broadcast their debates are actually providing in-kind contributions to political candidates at a level that is much higher than what is allowed under federal law. Again, I don't think that there should necessarily be these limits on the amount of contribution that can be made to a candidate, but since those exist, and I'm not going to be the one filing the lawsuit, but that's an argument that could be made, and something that was alluded to in one of the lawsuits filed a couple of years ago, but of course the courts didn't agree with that necessarily. There was the one decision that said the FEC needed to relook at the CPD's status of something, and the CPD needed to reevaluate their criteria, where they reevaluated the criteria and said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And the FEC reevaluated the CPD and said, yeah, they're not doing anything wrong. So yeah, they reevaluated, but nothing changed. So again, here, 7 debates, I'm perfectly happy with that. And I'll go one further. And Senator Feltus, I would invite you to come on to one of my town halls, and I will wind up, I'll let you pick the moderator. You pick the moderator, Dan. And I only have one request, that instead of the moderator coming up with the questions, the moderator selects questions that are submitted by voters. That's the one caveat to the invitation to come onto my town hall, is I'm not going to be the one running the show. We'll you pick the moderator, I'll give him or her host privileges. But the one caveat is they don't pick the questions, or rather they don't write the questions. They select them from voter submitted questions. And you name the name the day, name the time. I would prefer it not to happen on a Monday night, because I have a political science class on Monday night that I would rather not miss. So, like outside of that 1 hour of my poli-sci class on Mondays, name the day, name the time, I'll show up. But I'm not necessarily expecting a affirmative response here, but please, Senator Feltus, surprise me. Now, talking about debates, if you want to send your comments to different media outlets, you can go to darrylwperry.com/debates, where I just so happen to have a form that all you need to do is put your first name, last name, an email address, and your zip code, and then you can add in additional comments. And then it goes out to several media organizations and a couple of nonprofits that I either want to host debates or that have hosted debates in the past, or have announced that they will be hosting debates. And all this is doing is asking that they include everybody that's on the ballot. I'll actually read you the brief statement that I have on the page, again, darrylwperry.com/debates. In 2018, WMUR, the union leader, and New Hampshire Institute of Politics organized congressional and gubernatorial debates that deliberately excluded Libertarian and other candidates from the debate stage. The organizer of the debate waited until the last minute to announce inclusion criteria and used arbitrary metrics to exclude all candidates other than Republicans and Democrats. Voters have a right to hear from all candidates vying for our vote, and representatives of the media have a responsibility to conduct free, fair, and open debates without partisan bias. Join other New Hampshire voters in urging all organizations and media outlets that organize or host any debate for federal or statewide offices in New Hampshire to include all candidates who appear on the general election ballot without any arbitrary conditions of exclusion. And again, you can add additional comments, and this will go out to media. It will go out to some nonprofits. I personally am hoping that the League of Women Voters will organize a debate or a candidate forum of some sort. I'm also hoping that the UNH School of Law will organize a debate or forum. I'm not holding my breath that either happen, but I hope that, you know, if we're talking about 7 debates here that Senator Feltus wants to do, hopefully the UNH School of Law and League of Women Voters will count as 2 of those debates. And then there's the Granite State debate that has not yet been scheduled. So that's 3. Greater Nashua NAACP on October 1st, that's 4. NHPR is 5. And then there's also, what is it? The Mount Washington Valley Economic Council, so that's 6. Now we just need to find one more. Oh, what do you know? Senator Feltus, I invited you on my town hall for a debate. That's 7. There we go. There's the 7. Or we can raise it up one more, go with 8, and, you know, any other nonprofit in the state. Let's see, what about the New England College, or Franklin Pierce University, or Dartmouth, or Plymouth State, Keene State? There's a bunch of different colleges. I'm willing to travel to any of them. Robert in the Zoom says Great Bay College. Yeah, let's go there. Any of the colleges, any nonprofit that wants to host a debate, any media organization that wants to host a debate, send me the email, Darryl@darrylwperry.com. I realize sometimes that email doesn't work, so let's go with darrylwperry.com or darrylwperry@gmail.com. There you go. You want to send me a letter in the mail? 855 Hanover Street, number 428, Manchester, New Hampshire, 03104. That's my private mailbox. I get mail there all the time. Like, I'm not difficult to contact. Send out the invitation. I'll be at the debates. Again, since it's a solo show tonight, only going about 30 minutes. So if you do have questions, post them in the Zoom, darrylwperry.com/Zoom. And then I did want to discuss some of the electoral reforms that hopefully, as governor, I would be able to encourage the legislature to wind up passing. That is, if the members of the election law committee and the members of the full House and the members of the full Senate wind up listening to the governor over the Secretary of State on changes, because I know that they pretty much will do whatever the Secretary of State wants. But I hope that they will again pass legislation for an independent redistricting commission, which I would sign, on the provision that it have an equal number of Republicans, Democrats. If Libertarian is a ballot qualified party, equal number of Libertarians and an equal number of undeclared voters. And that adoption of any redistricting proposal require a majority of each of those groups. There's not a lot of times that I will say California is doing it somewhat close to right, but California's Independent Redistricting Commission has 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 4 other. And by other in California, that includes Libertarian, Green, Socialist, no party affiliation, American Independent Party, any kind of registration listing.
Shut the fuck up!
Alrighty, I don't know why that happened, and I thought I had this set to where people had to mute upon entry. I need to check my settings. But again, in California, you can register as anything that you want, not just a qualified political party. And the California Independent Redistricting Commission requires that everyone, or rather each of the subgroups, the Republican, Democrat, and other, all have a majority of the vote. So you have to have at least 3 Republicans, at least 3 Democrats, and at least 3 of the 4 other that approve the redistricting plan. I realize that New Hampshire's Constitution, and yes, this is Constitution Day, federally, not that it really makes much of a difference, because as Lysander Spooner said, the Constitution has either authorized such tyranny as we have or has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. But the New Hampshire Constitution does say that the legislature must approve the redistricting plans. It doesn't say that the legislature must draw the redistricting plans. So if you have this truly independent redistricting commission that comes up with the plans, and I would prefer that they just use computers to do all of the drawing, because you can do that. It's very easy. There's a lot of computer programs where you put in the criteria of it must be compact, and it can't cross a county line. You can't cut a town in half. You can't cut a city ward in half. Here are the criteria. Oh yes, and also if the city, ward, the town, etc., has enough voters for their own state rep, they must have their own state rep. So for instance, the city of Keene, each ward has a state rep, and then there's 2 state reps that are in what's called a flotarial district that covers the entirety of the city of Keene. So a computer would not be able to, based on the actual criteria in law, would not be able to draw Hillsborough 37 as the district that it is, that combines Pelham and Hudson with 11 state reps. Instead, it would have, I forget if Pelham or, I think Pelham is the larger of the towns, would have Pelham with either 6 or 7 state reps, Pelham with, I believe, 4, and or Hudson with 4, and then if Pelham only had 6, there would be a float covering, say, Litchfield, Pelham, Hudson, or Pelham, Hudson in a float. The 2 towns would not be able to be smashed together in that one big super district with the 11 state reps. But the reason that happened is because one of the state reps from that district at the time was a high-ranking member of the House Election Law Committee, and he didn't want the 2 towns split, because I think he knew that he would not have gotten reelected if the 2 towns were split, because based on the number of reps that came from the one town or the other, and he wouldn't have been in the top however many. So again, that's one of the proposals. And secondarily, which should probably be primarily, is that all political parties and political organizations, because under New Hampshire law, the Libertarian currently is recognized as a political organization, because we this year have not achieved 4% for governor or US Senate in the most recent election. So we are legally a political organization. And we had to collect thousands of petitions to wind up getting on the general election ballot. That's why I'm saying political parties and political organizations should be treated equally. Meaning that if we had election laws similar to what they have in neighboring Vermont, where every political party that is organized in at least 10 towns is automatically on the ballot. Now they do have some thresholds of once a party reaches certain either voter registration thresholds or vote percentages in elections, they qualify for primaries. And I forget if Vermont mandates a primary happen, where New Hampshire does. So if I am to receive over 4% of the vote this year, And then in 2 years, the Libertarian Party, unless the law changes, is required by law to have a primary to choose its nominees. That's something else. I believe that political parties should be able to opt out of taxpayer-funded primaries. Now, we know that the Republicans and Democrats won't do that. They like having the taxpayers pay for their funding or pay for their nomination process, whereas Libertarians, as a political party, I realize that there are some members of the party that are in favor of having taxpayer-funded primaries, but as a party, the party is opposed to taxpayer-funded primaries. There was a bill a couple of years ago introduced by former Representative Caleb Dyer that would have allowed a political party to opt out of having a taxpayer-funded primary and nominate by convention if they wanted. Unfortunately, it wound up dying, but there are, I believe it's either 19 or 20 states currently that allow political parties to choose whether to use primary or nominating convention. Virginia is one of those states. And I believe Virginia actually allows it on a race by race basis. So the incumbent gets to decide, I believe I'm remembering this correctly, whether to use a primary or nominating convention. So I don't want to decide it race by race because that would just be strange. It's either all or nothing, but I would prefer that the Libertarian Party not be forced to use taxpayer funds to pay for its nomination process. That way, the party has more control over who their nominees actually are. There's a post here that says, if you achieve 4% this year, then a future change in the law should not apply. You would have met the legal threshold at the time that the law was in effect. I'm not sure if that's in regards to, I want the party to be able to opt out of having a primary, or if that's in regards to something else. So Robert, please post exactly what it is that you mean there. Right, in regards to automatic ballot access. Got it. Yeah, so if they change it next year from 4% to 20%, yeah, there's a very good standing for a legal challenge to that. But again, I'm talking about, I want this not to eliminate automatic ballot access, because again, I think that every organization that nominates candidates should be able to get their candidates on the ballot without jumping through, these arbitrary hoops and hurdles. I just don't want the taxpayer funding for choosing nominees. We also need to modify the form of the ballot so that instead of using the party column ballot, that makes it very easy for someone to vote a straight ticket, where all you have to do is just follow the column down and say, oh, well, I want to vote for all of the Democrats and they're in column 1, and just fill in all of the circles. Or I want to vote for all of the Republicans and fill in all of the circles in that column. And then a lot of times people don't pay attention that there's no Republican or Democrat running in a particular race. And well, what do you know? There's a Libertarian, which oddly enough happened to me 2 years ago when I ran for state rep, again, in the city of Keene, where the vast majority of people that voted Republican did not fill in for anybody running for state rep, even though we had Libertarians running for state rep. There were a couple of other county offices where there was a Libertarian, but no Republican. And again, the Republican, and by Republican voters, I mean, if you look at the numbers, you could tell there weren't a lot of Republicans that wound up voting for the Libertarians. Because, it just makes it easy to go down the column, not even look in any other column. Whereas if we use the office grouping ballot, which oddly enough, every voter in the state uses at least once a year in municipal elections. Well, I shouldn't say every year, because Some cities like Manchester, they don't have the school board as a separate entity currently, so they don't have the spring election. But even, the primaries are under that office grouping ballot. So anybody that's ever voted in a political party primary, they are familiar with the office grouping ballot. But when you mention this to state reps on the election law committee, they get very confused and say, what's an office grouping ballot? I've never heard of that before. Well, it's what you use at municipal elections. It's what you use in the primary. And they're like, there's a different ballot for the primary and municipal elections than the statewide general? Yes, because municipal elections are nonpartisan. How are you breaking people out by party if it's nonpartisan? I never noticed that. And aside from the mocking tone in my voice, that is almost a word for word reenactment of a conversation that I had in an election law hearing last year, earlier this year. I forget exactly which one, but yeah, these state reps were completely baffled that they didn't know what an office grouping ballot was. And then when they saw it, they're like, this doesn't look like anything I've seen before. Well, that's the municipal ballot. Oh, yeah, it is. You're right. So again, if you want to, and apologies if my mocking tone has offended anyone, but if you want to learn more about what my policies are in regards to election law, you can head over to the website, darrylwperry.com/issues. If you would like to sign that petition, and I realize it's not actually a petition, it's sending emails, but I am keeping a list of the names, so it kind of is a petition. Head over to darrylwperry.com/debates. And if you would like to donate to the campaign, you can head over to darrylwperry.com/donate. Or if you don't want to get on the internet machines, you can grab your phone, open up your texting app, Signal maybe, but whatever your texting app is, and send a text to 77948 with the word Perry. So just my last name, Perry, in a text to 77948, and question here in the Zoom. And Robert, be glad I like you, because I will read this. That says, may I? My website is robertdanielrep.com and is finally functional and accepting donations as well. Robert Daniel, who is running for state rep in Hillsborough 11, which is Manchester's Ward 4, just one ward over from where I live. So yes, Robert, I will give your website out as well. Again, robertdanielrep.com is Robert's website, my website, darrylwperry.com. And again, I do these things every Thursday at 6 o'clock. October 1st, there's currently an asterisk next to, because I'm not sure what time the Greater Nashua NAACP gubernatorial forum is happening. It's either starting at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. Not sure, but I have accepted their invite and let them know that I would prefer a 7 o'clock start because of this. So October 1st is, asterisk, but all of the others, I will be, again, pending debates happening at the same time every Thursday through the end of October. darrylwperry.com/Zoom is the website. Have a good night. I'll see you next week.